full America on this episode of The Hot Zone.
This is The Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. I hope you're enjoying your Memorial Day weekend as much as I'm enjoying mine. As you can see here, I'm out on the range here at the farm and getting ready to put some lead down range because it's a good time to, anytime's a good time to do that, but especially Memorial Day weekend. Because, really, do you know how few places on the planet you can actually just walk out in your backyard and take a M4 military grade weapon? Well, this is actually a sporting rifle because it's not automatic, but who's counting, right? I don't like automatic anyway. It's too expensive to shoot. But how many places in the world can you just walk out in your backyard and do this? Not very many. And you got to celebrate that once in a while. And why? What better day than Memorial Day? Because it's the day that we celebrate the people who made it possible for us to be able to exercise this right. They didn't give us this right. The government didn't give us this right to protect ourselves, to be able to own a firearm to protect ourselves. These are inherent rights that we've had that are codified in our Constitution and respected by the government. You realize the Constitution is there to limit the government, not to limit me. And it's a good day to remember that here on Memorial Day. It's just one of the many things that makes America an absolutely great place to live. And, I get really tired of listening to these politicians who very often lately are liking to say things like America was never great, America was never all that great, that sort of thing. Probably because they have never been out on a range like this. If they get a chance to go do this, I think that they're going to maybe change their mind. But it kind of makes me think about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I guess, January of 2018, there was a high school teacher out in California, and he made some really disparaging statements about the U.S. military. So I want to show you that, and I want to show you what my response was at the time.
First of all, last week, a California high school senior named Victor Quinones was sitting in class just kind of minding his own business. And his teacher took issue with his fashion choices. See, he was wearing a U.S. Marine Corps sweatshirt, and that really set his teacher off. So take a listen to what happened next.
The data is in. We don't have a good military. Think about the people who you know are over there. Your stupid Uncle Louie or whatever. They're dumb. They're not like high-level thinkers. They're not academic people. They're not intellectual people. They're the lowest of our low.
That teacher is Gregory Salcido. He's not only a teacher there at the high school, he's also a former council member. He's on the city council and a former mayor of that town, Pico Rivera, California. Gregory Salcido referred to members of our military as not high-level thinkers. That's a quote. They're not academic people, he said. They're not intellectual people, and used a bunch of other epithets that we can't share with you on television. Aside from the irony of using his First Amendment rights to denigrate, which for Mr. Salcido means to talk badly about, the very people who give their youth and sometimes their lives to protect his own rights, let's just destroy this bigoted stereotype once and for all, that dummy in the military stereotype. See, Mr. Salcido has a liberal arts education from Whittier College in California. It's a private school. Now, leaving aside the obvious oxymoron of using liberal and education in the same sentence, let's take a closer look at Whittier and compare it with American service academies like West Point and the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. So Whittier accepts like 61% of applicants to its college. The U.S. Naval Academy, by comparison, accepts only 9%. Same with the West Point, the U.S. Military Academy in New York, and the Air Force Academy as well, only 9 or 10% acceptance rate. You also have to have a recommendation from your congressperson in order to get into that school. I don't believe Whittier is that way. Now, average ACT scores at Whittier are in the low 20s. That would translate it to a SAT score of around 1,100 or so. Well, West Point, you'd need to have a score at least 10 points higher on the ACT, which is close to 1,500 on the SAT, just to be average. To win an appointment to the United States Air Force Academy, according to their website, you must meet high leadership, academic, physical, and medical standards. You have to be of good moral character. I think Mr. Salcido is proof right there that Whittier doesn't have any such standards. But let's not just compare the cream of the military crop. Mr. Salcido referred to U.S. troops as the lowest of the low. Well, as it turns out, today, 70% of high school students in America are not fit enough to enlist in the U.S. military. Less than half score high enough on their ASVAB entrance exam to even qualify for the least technical positions the military has to offer. My own son, when he went to talk to the recruiter just a few weeks ago, I was with him, and talking to the recruiter, he said that of every 10 people that take that ASVAB test in West Virginia, he only has 2 that even pass. And, that's just a snapshot of the challenges or how difficult it is to actually get into the military today. In an environment where we're drawing down, today they're trying to grow, get up to 80,000 new troops this year, but in reality, it's not easy. In the U.S. military, we've got teenagers who help drive nuclear submarines. They're given responsibility for aircraft and vehicles worth tens of millions of dollars, and they lead men into life or death combat with professionalism and courage. These men and women confront America's enemies. They're so proud to do it. They don't need your thanks. But so these uninformed, ungrateful curs like Mr. Salcido, the U.S. troops do what they do so that guys like him can sleep safely in his bed at night in Pico Rivera County, California, and go to work in peace every day. See, in my opinion, Mr. Salcido is living proof that there's one other thing that's not being taught in most public universities like Whittier College, but it should be. It's the concept of honor. Honor simply means treating things of value as if they're valuable, treating things in accordance with their worth. But by the way he perverts his precious liberty to bash those who protect it, it's clear honor is something Mr. Salcido and those like him know nothing about. All in all, I'd say his profane rant, to me, is nothing more than an advertisement for homeschooling.
Now, look, I think if you are the kind of person who really believes that the people who join the military are the lowest of the low, that either you are just very disingenuous or maybe intentionally obtuse or maybe just ignorant. Maybe you just haven't spent enough time around people in the military. And so I would hope if you know somebody like that, that you would show them this next segment, because I want to show you a leadership video that the military puts out, that it shows to its men and women to explain to them the kind of culture that the military is trying to foment in its soldiers. And I just want you to take a look at this. It's a long video, but it's very, very telling about the quality of people that we find in the U.S. military today.
The Army profession is a trusted and disciplined vocation, serving under civilian authority to defend the Constitution and the American people. We provide a unique and vital service to society by developing and applying expert knowledge in the field of land power.
When the Army demonstrates the essential characteristics of trust, honorable service, military expertise, esprit de corps, and stewardship, it builds trust with the American people and our civilian leaders that we're performing our mission in the right way.
Our relationship with the American people is built on a foundation of trust, continuously reinforced as we contribute honorable service, demonstrate military expertise, provide faithful stewardship, and exhibit courageous esprit de corps. These are the essential characteristics of the Army profession. Trust is the bedrock of our profession, External trust is the confidence and faith the American people have in the Army to serve the nation in the right way, ethically, effectively, and efficiently.
The American people depend on the Army to win its nation's wars.
They see an American soldier, and they have an expectation, and it's our job to live up to it.
We take an oath. That oath is to, again, to protect the Constitution of the United States, whether you're in uniform or a government civilian.
Stressing the Army profession externally is about letting the public know that we're going to take the trust that you put in us and placed in us and freely give to us and use it wisely and employ it to not only make the Army better, but realistically to make our nation better and make America better.
Internal trust within the Army is reliance on the character, competence, and commitment of Army professionals to live by and uphold the Army ethic.
People want to follow people with character, do things right every single day, even when people aren't looking. Competence, it's what people look for and strive to be. It's what subordinates emulate in their seniors and superiors. And commitment, everybody will follow somebody that wants to drive to the end and get the mission done.
If you don't have a profession, you don't have leaders of character, then you're not going to be able to exercise mission command. And fundamentally, you can't warfight if you don't have it.
We have this trust that leaders will exploit the initiative, that because they understand the mission given to them, that they can direct, lead, and assess, and assume some risk, allowing soldiers to figure it out on their own.
The greatest way I can build trust is to be honest in words and deed. If I tell them, PT is important, they expect to see me outside the next day doing PT.
We are a family. We are a team. You will learn to trust and count on people, and people are going to learn to trust and count on you.
Honorable service is support and defense of the Constitution, the American people, and the national interest in a manner consistent with the Army ethic.
Honorable service starts from the time you take an oath to join the military.
We exist to serve the interests of the American people, to support and defend the Constitution.
Honorable service is doing the right thing even when no one is watching, doing what needs to be done without necessarily having to be asked or told, seeing what needs to be done and actually doing it.
Military expertise is the ethical design, generation, support, and application of land power.
It is understanding our professional body of knowledge, our doctrine, which is our professional body of knowledge. It's being able to execute the tasks that the nation expects us to be able to execute. So to have an effective team in combat, you've got to have competent leaders, you've got to have competent soldiers, you've got to have competent units.
We develop military expertise through a very old time-tested routine, and that's practice. Readiness is one of our main responsibilities, and the Chief of Staff of the Army's #1 priority for us. And in order to be ready, you have to practice those things that you want to do best. The best units we have in the Army do the simple things very well, and that's because they exercise those tasks that are critical for their survival on the battlefield and a means for them to win the nation's wars.
It starts with the soldier's creed. I'm an expert and I'm a professional. With what we do, we have to be experts at our job, because when we're out on the battlefield, that's where it all comes to fruition.
Esprit de Corps is the Army's winning spirit, a collective ethos of camaraderie and cohesion within the team. It is embedded in the Army culture of trust and sustained by leaders at every level.
Esprit de Corps is more than the unit t-shirt that you wear for a run. Esprit de corps means belonging to something bigger than yourself.
It's a sense of belonging, a sense of pride with your fellow soldiers in your ranks. And so it helps to complete the mission every day.
Building esprit de corps into formations is an absolute combat multiplier. And when the chips are down, when the stuff gets tough, units, formations, teams, tribes that have a very strong sense of cohesion throughout history have always performed magnificently on the battlefield.
At the end of the day, in front of adversity, conflict, disaster, chaos, there's a semblance of calm that esprit de corps established. You're not alone. You're going through this as a collective, not as an individual. The outcome is greater than yourselves.
Stewardship is the responsibility of Army professionals to strengthen the Army as a profession and to care for the people and other resources entrusted to them by the American people.
Now, as a senior leader of the Army, I have a responsibility for stewardship of the Army, not only today, but for the long term. So are we investing in our junior leaders? Are we making the right investment in equipment and doctrine and concepts and all those things for the future?
And also for stewardship of our monetary resources, our American public needs to know that we are doing everything we can to make sure that all those resources that are invested in us are spent wisely and on those capabilities that we really need to take care of those that are relying on us.
But stewardship of the Army profession is much bigger than stewardship of resources. Leaders must mentor and train soldiers and Army civilians to have these same set of values, to be ready to be the future leaders of our profession, and to carry it forward into the next generation.
A lot of times we tend to relate stewardship to money and finances, but in this profession, it's also about being a good steward of the lives that are entrusted to us. So whether it's someone's son or daughter, or their mom or dad or sister or brother, that life is precious to those individuals. So it's incumbent upon us as leaders to be good stewards of those lives that are entrusted to us.
We are not a profession merely because we say so. Consistent demonstration of the essential characteristics establishes and strengthens the Army as a trusted military profession.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs once said, "We're professionals, not because we say we are, but because of how we serve." And so what I took away from that, we can say we're professionals all day long, but people can observe us, how we serve, how we conduct ourselves. And so having these principles, having a basic ethic that we live by, really solidifies that term of being a professional. It's not just what we say we are, it's how we act and how we live and how we serve.
Make no doubt that the United States military is the most lethal force on the planet. But what you get when the United States Army shows up in your country, you're not just getting a lethal force. You're getting a force that has been trained with ethical standards and discipline. It has values that we embrace and we live by, and we are here to do what is right.
Whether it's in the honorable service of generations of battle-tried heroes, the expertise of our soldiers and civilians, the esprit de corps of storied units, or the stewardship of senior leaders, the Army builds trust as a profession by accomplishing the mission in the right way, both for today and for tomorrow. The Army exists as a profession for one reason: to serve the nation by supporting and defending the Constitution in a way that upholds the rights and interests of the American people. Regardless of component or cohort, we share an identity as trusted Army professionals with character, competence, and commitment. We are Army Strong.
absolutely fantastic. I don't know how you can watch a video like that and not say that the men and women in our armed forces are the best and the brightest of us, and that their sacrifice, whether it's sacrifice overseas or sacrifice here at home, just the fact that they're giving their youth to this country, they're writing a blank check to this country to do what needs to be done to keep us safe and safeguard our liberties, like this one. I don't know how you can not respect that. Memorial Day is a day all about honor. It's about honoring the things that are important. Honor means just to value things that are valuable. And it is absolutely valuable when people put themselves at risk for the benefit of others. And that's exactly what our men and women in uniform do. So maybe today, take some time and go out and exercise some of these great liberties that we've been safeguarded, we've had safeguarded by our men and women in uniform. And as for me, that's what I'm going to do for the next hour or so. So enjoy. We'll see you later. One more thing I want to point out before we go is that if you do go out to the range, don't forget the 4 rules of gun safety. All guns are always loaded. Never let the muzzle cover anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on the target. And always, always, always be sure of your target.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.